Okay, entitled 2 o'clock p.m. And entitled document. Star Trek character Worf Son of Mogh is an official character in the Star Trek franchise, portrayed by actor Michael Dorn. He appears in the television series Star Trek: The Next Generation, season 4 through season of the DS9 and third and final season of Star Trek Picard, as well as the feature film Star Trek Generations, 1994, Star Trek First Contact, Star Trek Insurrection, 1998, and Star Trek Nemesis, 2002. Worf is the Klingon and only Belarusian main character to appear in Star Trek in the 11th season of regular character of the Next Generation and DS9, plus appearance in the recurring character in Picard. Worf has appeared in more than Star Trek franchise episodes that any other character. Casting. Initially, Worf was not intended to be a regular character, as Gene Roddenberry wanted to avoid a retreat of the character of races featured primarily in the original Star Trek series. Accordingly, a cast portrait released in June 1987 to promote the upcoming series did not include Worf. Several tall, slim black actors auditioned for Worf before Michael Dorn came along. Not only did Worf character become a regular on the Next Generation TNG, he was continued on Deep Space Nine series for four more seasons, 1995 to 1999, and the spin-off Worf continued even into the 2010s. He made his debut in 1987 Counter 4 Points and last appeared in the character in 2023 Picard Season 3. Dorn has made 283 on-screen appearances, this most of any actor in Star Trek franchise. Family history. Worf was orphaned as a child and resulted in the Kidmer massacre and raised by humans. Helena and Sergei Rozhenko. In the episode, the character says he was raised on the farm world Goln, and other says he was raised in Russia near the Ural Mountains. He experienced conflicts between the upbringing and his desire to honor his biological heritage. He had two brothers, each with their own respective backstories, and well as two adopted human parents and one son. Important Star Trek episodes for Worf's family includes Bonding, Sins of the Father, Family Reunion, and Homeworld. In the Next Generation, Son of Morg and are continually invited in Deep Space Nine. The House of Morg was family high social and political rank and was for a time represented on the Klingon High Council in Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, set around 70 years before the Next Generation era began. Colonel Worf, also portrayed by Dorn, appeared as a legal advocate in Captain James T. Kirk and Dr. Leonard McCoy after they were accused of killing a Chancellor Gorkon in the Klingon High Council. He was also member of the Klingon delegation at Camp Kinnemer. Author explanation stated he was intended to be Worf's grandfather at the namesake. Worf had a son named Alexander, which was half human and half Klingon woman named Kilner. At the character introduced the emissary, however, she is later killed in the reunion, a sequel a that episode part of the woman of Worf's story arc, leading to Worf as a single parent. Alexander has a life aboard the Enterprise D. When Carol Killer is killed after TNG ended, Worf gets moved to D Space 9 space station where he eventually marries Trill symbiont Jadzia Dax. See, you are currently invited. On DS9, Worf Mrs. Enterprise D family that he's had often bemoting the cut rate work aesthetic unfriendliness on Wade outpost. The episode Sins of the Father introduced Worf's long lost brother, Kern, who is also an orphan of the House of Morg. Worf's adoptive parents had a biological son, Nikolai Rozhenko, with whom Worf grew up. Nikolai and Worf talk in Homeworld, where it is revealed that Worf likely had a nephew, niece. In the bonding, TNG Episode 5 aired 1989. Worf's adopt an orphan boy into the House of Morg. In the first Star Trek episode written by screenwriter Ron Moore, the orphan Jeremy, played by Gabriel Damon, has a special Klingon ceremony to be adopted in the Worf family. Join me in the Royal Este bonding. You will become a part of my family now, and for all the time we will be brothers. Worf's Jeremy, the bonding citation needed. Storyline. Backstory. Worf was born in 2340 on Koanos, the Klingon homeworld, as the son of Morg. 5 years later, his parents moved to Kittimer Colony. Worf's parents were killed during a surprise attack by the Romulans on the Kittimer outpost. The colony distress call was answered by the Federation starship USS Intrepid. Chief Petty Officer Sergei Rosenko found Worf in the rubble and took him after failing to find any living relatives. Rozhenko and his wife Helena raised him on a small farm colony on the planet Goln, a world about 2,000 inhabitants, almost all of them human. Worf also had a human brother, Nikolai, with whom often quarreled. He also spent his time on Earth, in his parents' native city of Minsk, all recommending to Miles O'Brien as one of his favorite places on Earth. Worf did not take Rozhenko's last name, preferring to addressed by Klingon designation Worf Son of Mogh. However, his son Alexander Rozhenko, who was raised by Rozhenko after his mother, Kellen did not their surname, although Worf was raised by humans. He considered himself Klingon at heart and studied in depth the ways of his people. As an adult, mannerism and personality, as well as his innate sense of honor, became more Klingon than human. Worf's brother, Kern, barely as year old at the time of Kinnemer's attack, had been left behind on the Klingon homeworld, Kronos, by his parent. Lorne, a friend of House of Morgue, appearing only in dialogue of the episode, sins of the father, were charged with the care of the young son, originally expecting Morgue stated the Kinner outpost to be short in term. Long adopted Kearns after the attack, but informed with the Klingon authorities that he had died with the rest of the family. Kern was not invited as being alive with both brothers were adults. In 2357, Worf entered Starfleet Academy. He graduated in 2361 and was commissioned with the rank ensign, becoming the first Klingon officer in Starfleet. All through Worf took immense pride and sense of honor from serving in Starfleet. Most other Klingons shunned and bittered the choice of vocation. In 2359, he became briefly involved with Caroline, who was the daughter of the Klingon father and half mother. The Next Generation. Actor Michael Dorn, portrayed by Worf. In 2364, Worf was assigned to the USS Enterprise T as Relief Flight Control and Tactical Officer with the rank of Lieutenant Junior grade. The Next Generation, a counter of 4 point. Under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the next year he was made acting chief security following the death of Tasha Yar. Even though he had believed that promotion due to the death of a comrade was not honorable. TNG Sins of Evil. The next year, he was transferred to Operation Division and was formally made Chief of Security. The Child. In 2365, he was renewed his relationship with Karen when she came aboard the Enterprise as Federation commissary as an urgent mission. He proposed marriage but was rejected. The Next Generation, the emissary. In 2366, he was promoted to Lieutenant, the Next Generation Evolution, after an incident caused the death of Lieutenant Marlo Astor. Worf brought the orphaned Jeremy Astor into the House of Morgue through the rite of Rusty, TNG, the bonding. Worf learned of Kurn's existence when Kurn was assigned to the Enterprise as exchange officer. Kurn especially asked for the Enterprise so he could observe his brother. He then revealed his truth and identity, informing Worf that the House of the Morgue revile Duras accused their father of betraying the Klingon Empire by helping the Romulans attack Khmer when they and the Enterprise crew discovered that it was, in fact, Duras' father who, who betrayed the Empire. Worf, realizing that the powerful House of Duras could not peacefully shamed without throwing the Empire into civil war, accepted a ritual discommendation from the Klingon High Council, while Worf decided to accept his dishonor. It was decided to keep Kurn's true identity secret in order to protect his dishonor, and the House of Morgue as a whole be left alone. The sins of the father. In 2367, Karen returned with Klingon Chancellor Kempek, who was come to meet with Captain Picard. When she came aboard, Worf learned he had a son named Alexander. She wanted to marry him, but Worf refused because he did not want to share his dishonor with her and their son. TNG reunion. After Kempek's death, she assisted Captain Picard with their right succession. Killing her was eventually murdered by Duras when she found evidence of her involvement in the effort to discredit Worf. Excuse me. And why he discovered did excising his right of vengeance. Worf fought and killed Duras with the Bathled in duel, allowing Duras political involvement, gone, and became Chancellor. They reunited. A civil war erupted when Duras' son Torvald, Chancellor Goron, Worf believed Gowron was legitimate ruler and convinced his brother to bring forces loyal him into battle on Goron's behalf. Worf resigned from Starfleet to fight Gorons and serve his brother's ship. Gowron won the war after Starfleet exposed Romulan support for the House of Duras. In appreciation of his support, Chancellor Gowron restored Worf's honor, allowing Kurn a seat in the High Council, as recognized his brother for representation of the House of Morgue. TNG Redemption Part 1. Once the war was over, Worf regained his Starfleet commission, recognizing that he did not fully belong to the Klingon society. TNG Redemption Part 2. In 2369, while the Enterprise was at Deep Space Nine, Worf investigated a claim that his father might still be alive in Romulan prison camp. His father was not there, having indeed been killed during the Battle of Kilmer, but a number of Klingons were living there with the Romulans, unable to return home with honor. As a Klingon and supported commit suicide rather than taken prisoner, they stayed and strayed from their ways of life. Worf visited a profound effect on the children of the prisoners, and many choose to leave with him. TNG Birthright. Worf visit camp caused him to reconsider his own beliefs. He visited the monastery Bereth to meditate. One day, a man appeared before him, claimed to be Keyless, the unforgettable who had returned to lead. War visited the camp caused him to consider his own beliefs. He visited the monastery at Bethlehem to meditate. His one day appeared claimed Kathas, the unforgettable who had returned to lead the camp one more, who was willing to consider the conflict because he believed the clan had lost their ways. Gabon questioned Katha about the details of his own memories. Okay. Kalas could not recall and then challenged Kalas to combat. Defeating his easy, the lost forced clerical revealed that they had created a clone of Kalas and implanted an ancient scriptural of Kalas's battle as his memories. Despite this, Worf became convinced that the Klingons would make a leap of faith and accept him as the legitimate heir of Kalas. He convinced the Klingons to appoint the new Kalas as emperor, while the real power remained with Gowron. as head of the government. The emperor would be the formal head of state and teach the story of Callas. Garon was introduced to the long along with this arrangement while Worf threatened in private otherwise to appoint his publicity, which Garon still not fully control the Empire could not afford. TNG Rifle Air. Worf avoided romantic attachment with non Klingon during his first few years aboard the Enterprise D. As Worf explained to both Commander Riker and Guinan. He felt that the non Klingon females would be too fragile and that he would have restrained himself too much. He would eventually develop strong feelings for Counselor Deanna Troy and explore a relationship with her for a time, which at this at times restrained his relationship with a former romantic interest. Commander Riker, Worf, and Troy seemed to end their relationship following the destruction of the Enterprise D at Viridium 3. Worf reassignments to Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine. In 2371, he was promoted to Lieutenant Commander Star Trek Generations after the destruction of the Enterprise D. Worf took an extended leave to evaluate his future. He was at the monastery on Klingon colony Boreth. He he was ordered to go to Deep Space Nine, advised Captain Sisko when Klingon fleet massed at the station. While when he arrived, he was met by former Enterprise D member and Deep Space Nine Chief of Operations Miles O'Brien. DS9, The Ways of the Warrior. Worf learned that the Klingons were planning to invade Cardassian because of a coup while they were led, believing the engineered by the way by the Dominion. Worf readily informed Sisko, knowing that he would jeopardize his status in the Empire. After the invasion, he began Gowron traveled to DS9 to ask Worf to join him in the battle. Gowron believed the Federation was unworthy of Worf's loyalty because they would not fight the Dominion. Worf felt the war was wrong and could not support it. Gowron punished him by reinstating Worf's discrimination, but this time executing the full degree by stripping him and his family of his honor, land and title, affecting bringing him the House of Morg. Worf submitted his disintegration, designation but Sisko rejected it because he still needed him. He had decided to rescue the member of the Cardassian Council from certain death at the hands of the Klingon. In, in, in doing so, he was able to prove that he was no Dominion involvement by verifying their identities. The Klingon attacked the station in order to capture the council members by withdrew as Starfleet ships approached, triggering a war on two fronts. At the end of the immediate crisis, Sisko convinced Worf to join the crew of the strategic operation officer. In this role, he would coordinate all Starfleet activities in the Bajoran section, all as executive officer of the USS Defiant, meaning that he had adjust to the requirements of obligation that came with the red command personnel uniform. For the first months, Worf had difficulty adjusting to the life on the station. Unfortunately, overstepping his boundaries by acting as he as he did on the Enterprise, putting him for the while at odds with Chief Security Officer Security Odo. For Worf, the station life seemed just too much gray, suddenly requesting to relocate his quarters aboard Defiant. After the Klingon Civil War, Kern had regained a seat on the High Council. Worf's opposition to the war against Cardassia cost Kern's seat on the council. 4 months later, he arrived at DS9 seeking help from his brother to perform a ritual to die with honor. He felt that the ritual with involved Worf's killing him was the only way to restore his honor. Unfortunately, disregarding the order from Sisko not to carry out honor killing, Worf failed in his first attempt to perform the ritual and later found he could bring himself to do so again, as he had taken on a human feature of morality and would consider in murdering his brother. Worf arranged for his brother to have cosmetic surgery and his memory wiped so he could start his new life with no ties of the House of Morgue. Current now has an entity of Rodek, whom who believes he lost his memory after being hit by a plasma discharge. Deep Space Nine episode Son of Morg. When Rodek sees Worf, he asks him where is his family, Worf but immediately replies that he has no family. After a year of war between the Federation and the Klingons, Worf joins a team sent to investigate claims that Gowron was challenging in disguise. Worf nearly kills Gowron in combat, but at the last moment, the imposter was revealed to be disguised as Gowron. Military advised by General Martok. This discovery helped restore peace between the Federation and the Klingon and Worf to Worf again, shunned by Garon for now having killed him when he had the chance, referring his dishonor. DS9 Broken Link. Opposing Ring. In early 2373, Worf became involved with DS9 science officer Jadzia Dax. A Trill woman, she was familiar with Klingon customs due to the experience of Dax symbiont, previous host Kuzan. She was the first non-Klingon that Worf could physically be with in the traditional Klingon way. Authors is it still left bruises, cuts, and broken bones. While on mission to the Gamma Quadrant, Worf was captured by the Dominion and sent to Jem'Hadar prison camp when he met a real General Martok and was reunited with the real Dr. Bashir. He had both been captured with the replacement of the Changeling, while the prisoner worked to escape. Worf entered the daily round of combat with each guard in turn. He earned the respect of Admiral Martok, and even on the guard because he would not yield. Once the prisoner escaped, they managed to earn the station about the Bashir challenging. Upon their return, Martok was assigned command of the Klingon detachment on Deep Space Nine and command of the IKS Ruktagan. Martok asked Worf to be the first officer. The ship had suffered many losses to the Dominion, and morale was low. Martok's refusal to engage the enemy due to his Dominion integration made things worse. Worf challenged him for the command, but allowed Martok to win and retain command. This led Martok retaining his warrior courage. With renewed vigor, he led the crew to their first victory against the Dominion. Understanding what Worf had done, Martok thanked him for reminding him of his duty as a soldier and offered him place in his house as his brother. By joining the House of Martok, Worf's status in the Empire was restored, albeit the House of Mogh remaining vacant. Worf's son Alexander was also assigned to the Romulan after they joined the Klingon Defense Force. Through it, Worf was initially estranged by now as adult son and cynical of his son's desire to serve in the Empire. He eventually resigned, reconciled with him, and his son joined the House of Mortok as well. Worf continued to serve on the Rotaguran after Sisko's withdrawal from DS9 and retaining of the Dominion War. When Sisko eventually returned with a fleet of Federation ships to retake the station, Worf and Martok lobbied Gowron to send Klingon ships to join the battle. The intrigue of the Klingon Ships turned to the tide, allowing the Defiant to break through the retake of the station. DS9 favored the bold sacrifice of the angels. Having helped liberate the station, Worf and Jadzia decided to get married. The wedding was traditional Klingon ceremony, which included the serious trials on Jadzia's part in order to gain approval of Martok's wife to join House of Morg. Almost ended in the disaster and the free spiritual Jadzia felt forced into the British rather than taking the matter of serious enough. Eventually, realizing its importance to Worf and counseled by Cisco that she needed to mature, Jadzia yelled and she was allowed to marry Worf. DS9, you're currently invited. In this, the DS9 episode, Change of Heart, Worf permanently ended a mission to contract a Kardashian information inside the Dominion in order to save his injured wife. The informant was criminally executed by the Dominion, causing Captain Cisco to formally caution that Starfleet might not grant Worf his own command. After this incident, being another officer permanent of Worf's records committed. However, Cisco added that had the had he been forced to choose between his own duty and his wife, he would not have done the same thing. By the late 2374, Worf and Jadzia were married less than a year. They decided to get to try and have a child, despite the extreme difficulty posed by the biology of Trill and Klingon. While Worf was away during a mission, Jadzia visited the Bajoran temple on the, the station. Was he attacked and killed an alien possession of body of Gold Dukat, who became the possession of station destroyed by or Prophet, Time and Orphan, Tyrian prophets. Julian Bashir was able to save the Dax symbiont, which was sent back to the Trill homeworld. Vader joined with a new host aboard the USS Destiny. When the symbiont heals and worsened, the Dax symbiont was implanted into the new host named Exri Dax, whose was assigned to the ship's counselor. She was not being trained to the host, but she was only available to join to Trill aboard. Ezri was difficulty making transition and thought out Ben Siska on Earth. In 2375, Worf left the mission to destroy the Dominion shipyard. It was dedicated to the mission to his late wife in order to ensure that his integrity to Stuval core in the Valhalla like realms of the honored dead, being joined by the Quark and Bashir and O'Brien. DS9, the Shadows and the Symbionts. Ezri helped Sisko on his mission, and then returned to DS9 with him. Shadows and Symbionts. She accepted his request to stay and on the station counselor. Worf avoided Ezri as first, confused about what to do about this new situation. He quick posting to DS9 led to a number of awkward moments between her and Worf, since the new host carried all the memories of the former host, but had its own distinct personality, despite their shared past. Also was considered taboo on Trill, for the new host fraternized with the former lover. After a brief rekindling their former other others, they decided not that things were just too different, and eventually they settled into a comparable friends. With with Esri eventually becoming romantically involved with Julian, who permanently had feelings for Jadzia. They, this allowed Worf to accept his Jadzia place of the Stoic Corps. In 2375, Worf became concerned with the leadership of Gowron, who they between entry of the Breen into the war the side of the main temporary sidelined the Federation and the Romulans fleet, which proved vulnerability in the Breen's temporary. This left the Klingons alone to carry on the flight of their flips should were affected in the same manner. Gowron assumed direct command because of the defeat of Martok's growing permanently as devised a plan to discredit Martox began ordering Martox in the near suicide mission against Dominion forces, hoping that the string of defeats between weakened Martox and him as a military leader, recognizing that Garon was jeopardizing the entire war effort to sake of his personal pride. Warp tried to convince Martok that should challenge Garon for a leadership after Martok refused. Worf challenged Garon himself, citing his faulty battle planning and dishonorable conduct, trying to discredit Martok and poor strategies. For later stages of the Dominion War. After a brief battle, Worf killed Gowron by rights. He was proclaimed the new Chancellor of High Counselor. However, Worf declined in favor of Martok, tracking into the wind. DS9. Not only it was again Worf handled the next Chancellor of the Empire was deciding have slain Duras and allowing Gowron. Incision of the Kempek's death, the second in time in Gowron's duel. This time, finishing Gowron's off and taking the respect of the former Klingons deal, however, that Gowron's death eventually gave him his mean Dragon Worth warrior was on his way to Stovor. After the conclusion of the Dominion War, Worf was offered position of the Federation ambassador at Kronos, the Federation homeworld, as depicted in the Federation Star Trek Deep Space Nine series final, What Leaves You Behind. Star Trek films. Worf continued to appear in the Next Generation films, would explain in various ways, such as being rescued from the damaged Defiant during the Battle of the Borg, Star Trek First Contact, and taking leave from traveling from the Enterprise. Star Trek Insurrection, Star Trek Nemesis, and released after the conclusion of DS9. Worf status at that time in unclear through the novelization stated Worf returned to Starfleet as he found his life as ambassador on Stanley. Worf attend the wedding of William Riker and Deanna Troi on Earth, and traveled to Beta Z with Enterprise crew for the second wedding of ceremony when the ship was diverted to investigate positronic signals from its systems near Romulan border. Star Trek Picard. By the time of Star Trek Picard, Worf was become the subcontractor for Starfleet intelligence, having attained the rank of captain and briefly commanded the Enterprise E beforehand. Worf had mellowed with age, no longer giving him the impulse, adopting the fondness for meditation and tea, his free time having seemingly given up Klingon opera and also revealed sometime happened to the Enterprise under Worf's command, and that rendered it unusable by the time it started Picard. Something that Worf insists that was fault. A contract. A contract heavily implied by Odo had made Worf unaware that a group of changelings operated, objected that the Dominion surrendered and became campaign against the Federation, prompted Worf to mount an investigation into the activities assigned by Raffi Mazet and surprised by the Rolaran. Worf and Raffi interrogated multiple criminal conspirators, including Ferengi Sneed and Vulcan Kryn, finding them a challenging group that had infiltrated the highest level of Starfleet and berated the most advanced labs and Daystrom institutes to restart the Dominion War. He was reunited with Picard and rest to the Enterprise crew, including resurrected Data through the rest of the third season. He helped Picard defeat the Changelings collaborators, the Borg, and rebuilt the Enterprise D. Worf has also helped Mazekir reunite the extended family as heretic. Deeds to them. He was last seen playing poker with the Enterprise crewmates at 10 Ford Bar in Los Angeles. Content with his life. Alternate versions. In 2370, after reuniting from Torment, Worf encountered a quantum fissure and began shifting into different realities. In one reality, he became involved with Deanna Troi while recovering from a spinal injury. He asked permission from Commander Riker and Counselor Troi by the time events in the episode take place. He had been married to her for years. In another reality, Worf, first officer of the Enterprise, serving under Captain Riker, who assumed command after Captain Picard was killed by the Borg. He had married Deanna Troi and had a daughter, Shana Rosenko, and a son, Erica Christopher Rosenko. However, she doesn't know anything about Alexander Varels. In an alternate future, Alexander became a diplomat instead of a warrior. He wanted to end the feuding among the great house and declared that the handsome Morg, who no longer engaged in the blood feuds, Worf warned him that This was shown a weakness, but Alexander perished shortly after Alexander's decision. He witnessed Worf being killed on the floor of the High Counselor. Had he become a warrior, he thinks perhaps he could have had saved his father's life. Eventually, he finds a way to travel back in time to try to prevent these events from recurring by convincing his young self to train to become a warrior. While under the assumed name Kimtek, by Worf's convince him to return to the future with assumed that it already changed his own future. Firstborn. In an alternate future, Worf had been returned to become involved with Troy, and her sudden death led to the rift between Riker himself and Result. He later served as a member of the Klingon High Counselor and governor of the Klingon colony Heroia, with the follow Klingon possibility the brink of the war with the Federation, something in the Romulan Star Empire. Nevertheless, he helps his old crewmates with the threat of an anti-time eruption, and Riker makes his early gestures of his old friend, asking him for help on the Enterprise bridge during the situation, which Worf accepts. All good things. While on mission to the Gamma Quadrant, the Defiant detects an energy barrier surrounding a planet in the nearby solar system. When they enter the barrier, the ship is damaged and they detect settlements with 8,000 people who are mostly human. When when they investigate, they learn they have been expected. This settlers explain they are the descendants of the Defiant's crew. In a couple of days, when the Defiant tries to leave orbit, they will throw them back in time 2 centuries and crash and land on the planet. Worf learns he married and raised a family. He meets his descendant, Boratra, who leads their son of Morg, who members of the descendants of Worf and Jazia, and others who had joined them in the fall of the Klingon customs first taught them by Worf. Chosen of time. In the mirror universe, Worf leads the Klingon Cardassian alliance and regions after Terran rebels take over Terek Nor. Worf tries to recapture the station but defeats by rebels who have a new ship based on their design defined prime universe. Engaged, Worf claims he is lost only because he has been betrayed, with the mirror Garak gaming intend Kirinarius as likely source. DS9 shattered mirror. Eventually, Worf captured her and Grand Nagus Zek, who crossed over with to this universe to open the markets. Worf agrees to let Zek to go in an exchange for a cloaking device, but the device was sabotaged and his ship was disabled, allowing for the Terran rebels to capture him. The Empire's new cloak. Possible spin-off. Due to Worf's popularity, there was some talk as Captain Worf series prior to the streaming television spin-off began in 2017. In 2012, Worf conceived the idea for a Worf show and pitched the various times in 2010. He was prominently offered the role as Worf ancestor in Star Trek Discovery, but this did not come to fruition. In 2021, Worf addressed rumors that he might appear in Star Trek Picard, said still interested in a movie series with Worf. Reference in media. Worf appeared in various TV, films, books, and video games, as well as being referenced in non-franchise, such as satires, video games. Worf fights Jem'Hadar soldier with energy weapons in Star Trek Deep Space Nine: The Fallen. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the following Commander Worf and the three main playable characters in computer games Star Trek Deep Space Nine: The Fallen. In the game, playing can play as Worf. In the game had generally favorable reviews, with the reviews saying compelling storyline. It was published in 2000 for Windows 2001 Macintosh. Star Trek Invasion Commander Worf for the 2000 Sony PlayStation video game. Star Trek Invasion: in the game, players get instructions from for Worf. In the game, received general favorable reviews. Television: the series finale Webster was titular character to the into featured Enterprise D bridge, where he was encountered several on the Enterprise crew member and Worf. Worf initially tells Webster he cannot return him to the time due to the Enterprise and only to the escape gradual pull of a planet, but eventually they were able to revert the engineer, proceed to pull Webster to the future, and return him to the home. Webster wakes up and then seems to have dreams. During the film Dead 2, Michael Dorn appears as a character by the name of Rick. This character film attends to the New York Comic Con, emerged dresser as Worf. Worf, voiced by Michael Dorn, makes appearance in animated series Family Guy. Books and comics. Worf cover Star Trek Defined 1. Worf character further developed by non-canon film. Star Trek not live action material and not considered as part of the character's story through may use elements. From the television and native narrative in the world, other world, live action appearance non take into account stories written in novels and examples. According to the pocketbooks novels and Nemesis world take over William T. Riker position for the officer aboard the Enterprise D. According to Death in Winter, Worf was to transfer to the Riker to Titan, but after the death of Data's death, Picard was asked Worf to stay aboard the Enterprise, and Worf engaged in the early 2380s in the resistance of Starfleet Command. Approves Picard's request to make Worf a permanent officer, but Worf refuses to double his command skills due to his choice love over duties and changes of heart. Soon afterwards, however, Worf successfully leads the rescue of Picard from the Borg resistance and is successfully convinced to accept a permanent promotion. As in 2385 in the novel A Ministry of the Fall, Worf continued to remain first officer of the Enterprise E. According to the Titan series, he adopted the Data's cat spot. Worf was in a relationship with the Enterprise E's chief security adjustment in the book till the death in 2012 non-position. Uh, I'm gonna do. I'm gonna All right. End of part one, part two.